So it's always so good to come to the first of the year and start to relook at who we are, what we're doing, where we're going. And as I said, there's nothing that says it has to be at the first of the year. It's just what we do. But what we know is that we can start a new life at any moment and in any point, because I always like to say that creation starts from this moment forward. Whatever we're willing to embrace, whatever we're willing to embody, becomes a starting point for new possibility and for a new way of being. Nothing wrong with being where we are. Nothing wrong with it. Unless we're struggling with where we are. And then it's always good to look at, do I want to stay here? This month, for the month of January, we've set this theme and this intention and this idea of intention and manifestation. Because I don't know if some of you have realized, but just because we set an intention doesn't mean it will be realized. Sometimes we set an intention, it does come into being. And sometimes we set an intention and it doesn't happen. So I always love to look at what's the difference. If it were only about the mind, then every time we said something, it would happen. So there must be something more going on. And so we're looking at this idea. Last week we looked at setting a clear intention, and this week we're looking at using this universal power. Next week we'll look at following intent with action. Because it turns out you do have to do stuff. Some of us, except for the highly evolved, there are those that sit, and Sai Baba is said to be able to manifest out of thin air, and But for us mere mortals, most of us have to set the intention and then do something about it. Now, this is a good reminder that it's always good to set the intention first and then move into action. Do the prayer work first and then follow that with our works. Sometimes we get that reversed, and we find ourselves being in action, and then going, well, this isn't working. Maybe I should sit down and pray for guidance. So, just a different approach. It'll save us some time by getting clear on the goal first and then doing the action. So I'm reminded of this idea over and over. These principles that we teach are so simple, so basic, and really so easy. And yet so often we complicate them, don't we? Right? It's like, well, that's too easy. Maybe I'll just make it harder. I think some of that comes out of that idea that nothing is worth it unless we have struggled. But we just sung no more struggle, more strife. What if we just made a choice to have life be easy? I love that idea. What if? Because it can be so once we understand the principles and the power. So what I love about the teaching is that we all have the power. As in the passage I was just reading from Eric Butterworth, is that remembrance that what Jesus was teaching us was not, look at me, aren't I cool? Look at me healing the sick, right? But look at me as an example for the life that is available to us. And we realize that, and we operate from that consciousness, from that awareness. That is where the power lies. We all have this power. It is a universal power, and it is available to us. You see, many years ago, Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote that great are those that feel that the spiritual is stronger than the material force, that thoughts rule the world. That thoughts rule the world. And we see evidence that everywhere we look in our physical reality. The chair you are sitting on was an idea in somebody's mind at some point in time. Every single thing, the car that you drive was a collection of ideas. Everything that we see in our physical world is the outward expression of mental ideas. And so we do well when we come back to the mental, to recognize the spiritual force behind who we are and what we're about is the power. Now, I was reminded again. So I mentioned that I had a weak moment and have adopted this dog. Because apparently I needed new lessons and fresh material for my sermons. Wonderful, sweet, big old dog. Wasn't trained well. He was kind of kept out in the backyard for a while. They turned him into the dog pound. Some family rescued him. They threw him inside with 3 little kids and wondered why that didn't work out well. So, unfortunately, so often so many of these wonderful dogs end up in pounds, not because of their failures, but because of others. So we brought Blue into our life. Now, here's the interesting thing. I realized that I had set an intention for myself to get more exercise. This was pre-Blue, right? So I don't have a backyard. There is no, hey, go run around in the backyard. It's like you and me, we're going for a walk. So I'm getting in some good exercise every morning, every afternoon. What a blessing. You see, sometimes we set an intention and the universe says, cool, I've got the perfect answer for you. Plus, you get a lot of love and a lot of fur everywhere. You get lots of fur to remind you that you are not alone. All is well. We're working through our program. We're learning to live together. Cat's figuring out the dog's figuring out the cat. I'm figuring out both of them. You know, it's just kind of a really great thing. And then we were down here because he spends a lot of time with me. I spend a lot of time here by myself, believe it or not. So it's nice to have a little companion. We're down here. Sweet little Dorothy, who many of you know, who cleans our building, is just a sweet lady. Says, I'll take him out. I said, that's all right, you don't need to. I said, oh, I'll take him out. So she's letting him run around back here. And, like, that little gate is open enough that I can get through that. He is not intimidated by these things. So all of a sudden she comes running and says, oh, my God, Blue's gone. You know, not a problem. We'll call him. Ha! So by the time I get out back, he is traversed the ravine and is running. I can see him running around the apartments, having a field day, having the blessed time of his life. Like, look at me. I am free. I am unlimited right here, right now. Fine. So me, I'm kind of trudging across the mud-laden ravine to, try and get to the dog. And so by the time I get there, he's wherever he is. Okay. Opportunity and exercise. So I looked all over, and then I drove around. I came back, made signs, did all that, went into action. But I had a sense that it would all be okay, right? And then I set an intention. And so, went through. So we went a day. That night I'm like, but all is well. So here's why something when I talk about social media. Social media is the coolest thing in the world. So there's a little lost and found thing on Facebook for Charlotte. Post, got shared 159 times, right? And so everybody's on the alert for Blue, and Blue's, out chilling, doing whatever he's doing. So then I was like, okay. So then I went down to the, animal control, because that's what you do, and then left there. I didn't have all his paperwork, so I left there. Kept going back to, this is okay. This is okay. It's all going to be okay. It's all going to be easy. It's going to be fine. So then I find the paperwork. I go back to the animal shelter. I'm telling them we've got to file a case report. It's very official. Here's his mugshot. And I get a phone call. And I answer, and it's like, I just need to take this. So I'm literally filling this out. And this gal says, hi, this is Brianna. I think I have your dog. I said, cool. She said, he just jumped right in my car. And I said, that's kind of how he is. That's why I never really was too worried. Because if anybody said, I've got a treat, he'd be like, yeah, I'm good. So I said, great. Where are you? She said, we're in the parking lot at the animal control building. I said, well, I'm inside the building. I'll walk out. So literally, the dog was returned to me, unhurt, really sweet people, So I was just thinking, there's lessons for us to remember, because sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes in the midst of crisis, I want to throw it all out. and go, I'm just going to be busy worrying and being frantic and panicking and being crazy, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. But when we're clear, I don't know. But my sense is that we rescued this dog for a reason. I can't believe it was for 3 weeks, right? And so let us know that it can be easy. And sure enough, it all worked out. Now, we continue our training program. Because one of the other things I found out was all this wonderful training we're doing inside means nothing the moment you go outside. It's a whole new world, whole new reality. Sit means nothing. Come means nothing. Oh, it's like, what? No. Who knew? I know now. So I share with that because what I want us to know over and over and over is it's not just the high, lofty, being the presence of Christ in the world, which is good, but it's the day-to-day. It's the intention. It's the what do I want? How can I envision my life being? Do I envision it being fulfilling? Do I envision myself a certain way? And you hear me talk about this all the time, but so much of what the world tells us is that when you change your conditions, you change your circumstances, when you change all of the outer, then your inner experience is different. And we would say, no, it's just the opposite. That it is about learning this joy that comes from knowing our oneness with the divine. It is this joy and this awareness and this power that comes when we recognize that we are spiritual beings, that we are given this power by our birthright. It is not something that we earn. It is not something that we gain. It's something that we realize. It was always there. So when we understand this, then it informs the way we pray. We talk about affirmative prayer. Some of us grew up in traditions where we ask God for things. Please, God, give me what I want. And do it soon. Here's the time, right? But in affirmative prayer, we're recognizing that the spiritual source, the spiritual essence, is already ours. Butterworth says so beautifully, it's God can't forsake us any more than gravity forsakes us. There's times I wish gravity would give me a little break, but it doesn't. Right? So we're already in the presence. We're already in the power. We're already utilizing it. Now the opportunity for us is to be more conscious about our use of this presence and this power. So our affirmative prayer is not saying, please intervene in my life, but please help me recognize and realize the spiritual truth. When we encounter a problem, when we encounter a situation, that actually becomes the invitation to greater awareness and understanding of who we truly are. And likewise, when we set an intention, very often the thing that shows up for us first is the opportunity to realize that is true. In other words, you set an intention for more financial good in your life. Right? And what shows up is an unexpected bill. A water heater goes out or some situation happens and you're like, well, that wasn't my intention. But the universe, if it could speak, it would say to you, yes, it is. Because you're still believing in the thing as the obstacle to your good. You're believing that your broken water heater somehow limits the good that is available to you. And so because I love you, I wanted to give you an opportunity to practice. So, Marty, you think you believe in the goodness and connectedness of God? I'm just going to have your dog run away and see what you do. Right? Now, part of me wanted to panic. Part of me wanted to chase the thing down, but that lasts about 2 seconds, and then I'm like, he's a puppy, I'm an old man. This is not going to happen. So we got to rely on greater skills. So I said, I realized this years ago. I adopted a horse. I don't know what this is, but I adopted a horse, and so we began the training program. One of the things you realize with horses is you better figure out how to get inside their mind, because you're not going to boss them around. 1,200 pounds can be intimidating. So you want to kind of say, well, let's try a new approach. The other thing I learned about training horses is they're hugely intuitive. For those of you who are horse people, you know what I'm talking, right? They are connected. That's how they can all run around together and never run into each other. We're going to go here. Let's turn. They all turn, right? So when you're doing that, I kept realizing over and over, my trainer who realized training me so I could train the horse to be in the place, to be centered, to be calm, to be clear. And then the horse could receive that information and could do what was being asked. Rather than if I was frantic, I was like, something's wrong. I better freak out. Clearly the energy is not right here, right? So we see example over and over and over of how the universe is corresponding to our inner being. So when we're going into prayer, it is in the recognition of the ever-present reality of the divine. And so there's a few things we want to recognize. The secret of prayer and its power in the outward life depends upon an unconditional faith and reliance upon this inner presence. An unconditional faith and reliance upon this power. This is why in the life of Jesus we see this teaching over and over. This Father, this power within me that does the work. And so he drew upon that spiritual power. No doubt every prayer is answered when it complies with 3 conditions that Jesus laid down. The first condition is the realization of the divine presence. All that we call love, wisdom, wholeness, the source of all good, is the presence. Some might call that love. The second condition is that we understand that there's a creative law that responds to us corresponding to our belief. You see, I come back to this realization that Jesus said time and again to those who would follow him that, do you believe this is so? Then according to your faith, it shall be established. It was not according to my faith, but according to our own. That when we are moving into that state of faithfulness, then the universal laws correspond to that to bring into the experience that which is necessary. So there's the presence, and then there's the principle. There's the presence, there's the power. There's the presence, the law. And then the third condition is that we must have a definite purpose of good through praying affirmatively and through a complete acceptance of the answer. So, I have these interesting moments somewhere between dreaming and waking up. A lot of weird things happen in my life. And so one of the things that I realize, sometimes we say things like, I want to do this, right? So I was thinking, the kind of the imagery that came to mind is if I want to, I'll set this intention, I want to lose weight this year. Cool, lovely, right? Who could fault that? But then you come to church and somebody's made this gorgeous chocolate cake. And you just happen to have a thing for chocolate, right? And you're like, I want to lose weight, but I'm going to have some of that cake. Right? Because wanting to is not getting us there. Wishing for is not getting there. But when we can make the declaration, I am a person who nurtures my body with wholesome food, then the cake appears and you go, oh, look, that's beautiful. I'm going to go have my carrot stick because I am a person that makes healthy food. Or we're conscious about, I'm going to go have my little cake because I don't think you have to go through life never having cake again. That would be a sad world that I do not want to live in. But it's about choice. It's about recognition. That maybe if I have the slice of cake today because I'm a person who is wholesome and makes healthy choices for my well-being, then I just factor that into my whole eating program. It's not the end of the world, right? There's no power in the cake. I just want to say that again. There's no power in the cake. Are you sure they're saying? Because I hear the cake calling to me. I hear a voice in the background. Over here, chocolate, come visit me. Right? It's about us. So it's the presence. You see, that's why we do the spiritual practice, to recognize the larger life, the deeper something. That when we get behind our monkey mind, as it's called to sometimes, into that intuitive, into that open, into that receptive mind, and we remember our oneness with the divine, then we realize that there is a power that is working for us always, and that is cooperating with us, and that is co-creating according to our thought, our word, and our belief. And then that's that definitive purpose. Sometimes people say, well, we're just going to pray for their highest good. That's lovely. Nothing wrong with praying for highest good. But that needs to always be at the end of the prayer after you set the definitive purpose. Right? So for me, the principles are pretty simple. The principles are pretty easy. The practice thereof is what we do for the rest of our life. At least in my case. Maybe some of you don't have to practice anymore. You see, Mark Twain said something very brilliant. Mark Twain said a lot of brilliant things. But I love this quote. He said, it ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. Right? It's what you believe to be true, whether it's true or not, that gets you into trouble. This is why some people struggle with our teaching. Because at some point, they realize it's not about abracadabra, it's not about fairy dust, it's not about this magical incantation, but rather it's about us. What do I believe to be true? If I believe life is hard, life just is cool. It's your choice, your belief. Let me fulfill that for you. If I believe, you can just start looking at the things that we believe. Do they support this well-lived life? Do they support the fullness of who you are? Or are they carryovers from beliefs that you may have inherited from others and continue to perpetuate? When we look at how people are, fill in a blank. Black people, white people, straight people, gay people, Republicans, fill in your blank. And you say, that's my belief. Then you also attract to yourself people that will support your belief. Right? But when you say, you know what? As far as I can tell, we're all just spiritual beings with different costumes. So I'm going to look for the spiritual and connect with that and welcome and embrace all this other good stuff that people bring to the table. Then you delight in the diversity of life, the diversity of people, the diversity of opinions, the diversity of the ways we praise the Lord or God or not God. Whatever, right? That's why I love this. One of the reasons I love this teaching is that it gives me a place to be expansive in my understanding of life. Sometimes it calls me to question, why do I believe this to be so? And sometimes I find it's because my family believed that to be so. Chances are their family before that believed it to be so. And somewhere where we break the patterns is being willing to shed those beliefs that no longer serve us and to step forward into a new reality. That's why as we enter into this new year, it's a whole new possibility. Not because it's a new year, but because I'm willing, you're willing to embrace a new concept of life and the possibility for me and for you. Isn't that cool? Did I get a little clap over there? Well, don't be shy. You know, if you want to clap, clap. Oh, this is really good talk. I should give this talk someday. Every once in a while I like to look at my notes just to see what I thought I was going to talk about. That's good. Good stuff. It's all good stuff. One last idea I want to close with. My teacher, my guru, if you want, taught me that we cannot demonstrate beyond our ability to perceive. Right? So this is why I kind of love doing prayer for people. Because I'm not doing something to them. I'm doing something within my own consciousness that allows me to look at my own limitation. It allows me to remember the truth so that I can demonstrate at a higher level. And so when somebody comes to us in need of physical healing, we have to recognize the physical disease is not the problem. It's not the reality. It may be the fact. See, I don't deny current conditions as facts. But I also remember that Jesus didn't say to, if you know the facts, that'll set you free. Pretty sure it doesn't say that. But he said, if you will know the truth, you shall be set free. So our work is to know that spiritual truth, that beyond the condition, beyond the circumstance, beyond the situation, there is a spiritual reality, and it is that I must tap into so that I might speak the word of truth for you so that we can be in agreement and a healing occurs. Amen. You're kind of noticing a theme here. It always comes back to us. Doing our work. Expanding in our spiritual consciousness. Remembering the truth of who we are. And so we realize that the way we expand our awareness is to be together in spiritual community. To feed our minds with sustaining ideas. To read and to speak affirmatively and to practice an ongoing basis. These simple ideas. Cultivating the relationship with the presence, working with the principle, and doing it for a definite purpose. So, now you got everything you need to know. All you got to do is spend the rest of your life working on that. Wonderful mystic Hildegard de Bingen. She explains the passion that God has for us. These divine images. In this wonderful passage, she says, with my mouth, God says, I kiss my own chosen creation. I uniquely, lovingly embrace every image I have made out of the earth's clay. With very spirit, I transform it into a body to serve all the world. He wrote several centuries ago, but that idea that the divine kisses its creation, the divine expresses through its creation, reminds us that we do indeed live, move, and have our being in this presence. And so as we go forth, it is the realization of who we are, allowing something greater to happen through us and as us. So let us pray. As we give thanks for this day. As we give thanks for this opportunity to be together in spiritual community. As we give thanks to the one life, the one presence, the one power that is making itself known everywhere and every time. It is in that realization that we simply say yes. We say yes to that higher possibility expressing. We say yes to the divine creative urge that is within us to be expressed more fully. We give thanks that all that is necessary for the full and complete unfoldment of these divine ideas is already provided. And we speak the word of truth for those requests that have been placed in our ministry of prayer as we know the spiritual truth and reality. We claim wholeness, and we know that that wholeness reveals itself as health and well-being and vitality. We claim love as the only reality, and that love casts out fear, that love heals and transforms all relationships. We know that the practice of forgiveness easily allows greater love to be realized. We give thanks that we are abundant beings, for we are one with the source and the substance of all that is. And so joyously we participate in the divine flow, graciously receiving, generously giving of the one. And we are grateful for the opportunity to be of service. To be of service to this divine idea. To be of service to each other. To be of service to this world. We recognize and we know that we are right here and right now blessed beyond measure. And so we give thanks and we extend that blessing to this community, this divine idea unfolding. We extend that blessing to our brothers and sisters, both local and across the planet. We're knowing that we are entering into a new era, a new possibility where the brotherhood and sisterhood of all humanity is recognized and realized, that there is peace for all. And as always, I'd like to close by blessing all priests, rabbis, ministers, teachers of all faiths and all faith traditions. For I know that where two or more are gathered in the divine idea, it is good and very good, and I bless that. So for all of these blessings, and so many more, I simply give thanks, as together we say, and so it is. Amen.